It's kind of hard to talk about a game like Need for Speed Underground without first kind of referencing the Fast and the Furious. I mean, let's face it here. This movie really kind of got the import racing scene up to the kind of level of popularity where it is today. And we probably wouldn't be seeing games like Need for Speed Underground if it wasn't for the success of that movie. The game does its best to try to kind of immerse you in the import racing scene by giving you a handful of cars to drive, as well as a lot of different modifications you can make, both visually and performance-wise. And then lets you take it to the midnight streets and kind of duke it out with 3 other cars in a lot of different races. The game has some cool variety, both to the car modifications you can make and to the different race types, but there probably isn't enough variety in the game to keep players interested throughout the entire 111 race career mode, though it sure puts on a pretty good performance. The game has several different race types, and a lot of these are actually pretty much the same. You'll have circuit racing, and then kind of a point A to point B race that doesn't force you to drive laps, and then knockout races, which are basically the circuit races, only the last place driver in each lap is eliminated. Adding some variety are the drift racing and drag racing options. Drift racing is basically just about how well you can ride the e-brake. You just kind of want to whip it around corners for power slides, and instead of trying to finish first or anything like that, it'll just give you points based on how well you can power slide. Drag racing is even more different. Basically, this takes the whole focus of the game off of steering and navigating a track, because you're just driving in a straight line. And basically, the gameplay kind of shifts to make sure that you're actually shifting properly. The whole left side of the screen adjusts to become a pretty big gauge of your RPMs, and little lights and indicators come on telling you when to shift. This starts out pretty simple. There's not going to be any oncoming traffic or anything like that. And you can pretty much stay in your lane. But as you proceed and unlock kind of the more difficult courses, you'll find obstacles and a lot of cars on the track, and you'll actually have to kind of dodge around and actually do some steering. The steering in this mode is actually pretty well done. It's been reduced to more of a kind of like a slot car track kind of lane change mechanism, which is good because you're going so fast you wouldn't really want to make sharp turns in the first place. The drag racing, is over, almost as quickly as it starts, and it's not really good enough to be kind of like a big, game on its own, but it definitely breaks up the action really well here and provides just kind of one more thing for you to be doing. So while there may be a good variety of race types in the game, there really aren't that many tracks to speak of. There are definitely a lot of different races and a lot of different configurations. You can race the tracks forward, and you'll unlock the reverse tracks and things like that. But the game really does the kind of dirty ridge racer thing where it gives you kind of the same section of track, and it'll open up another section here, close off another section here, start you 2 blocks back, so you have to race through that stuff before you get to the familiar section. But a lot of the races in the game really kind of have you going over the same ground over and over again, and this is pretty disappointing. It also has the side effect of really forcing you to kind of drive by looking at your map more than the road, because you're going to be familiar with certain sections of the track, but since you're never really quite sure which part's going to be open and which part's going to be different, you really kind of find yourself kind of staring at the map, looking out for shortcuts and trying to figure out which way you're going to be going. Perhaps the strongest point about Need for Speed Underground's gameplay is that it's very easy to pick up and play. I mean, the game has not been designed in a simulation capacity. You're not going to find Gran Turismo-like, oversteer and understeer here. It's just real basic, pick it up, mash the gas, occasionally hit the brake, but most of the time you're just going to be gunning it all the way through the curves. You can use the e-brake to pull power slides around corners and things like that. And all these things have been done very deliberately to make it a very easy game for people to play. But it doesn't really necessarily mean that it's overly simplified or kind of boring. Basically, you can really have a lot of fun with just driving in this game because the controls are so well done. The career mode, which is called Go Underground, basically ties all the different race types together and kind of puts you into the world of street racing. It does try to give it maybe some semblance of a plot. It doesn't really try to tell a story per se, but it introduces characters, and you'll be kind of taking on figures that'll be challenging you over the radio. And you will see some cutscenes which star this really awful-looking polygonal woman who just comes across really horribly. I mean, basically the whole mode with its cutscenes and stuff really just have a whole lot of really fake attitude, and they come across really hokey. It's just like, hey loser, how you doing? It's not very good. But what the career mode does do is take you through all the different race types. It has 111 different races, and as you proceed through these races, you'll be opening up various items. Basically, you earn money for every race you win, and then as you proceed from level to level, more and more upgrades become available. Upgrades are available in multiple levels, and they'll affect things like your turbo, your engine. You'll be able to add nitrous to your car eventually, chip upgrades, weight reduction, all these sort of things that will make your car go faster, handle better, and that sort of deal. The game also has a lot of visual upgrades, and this actually is cool because they did give some meaning to these visual upgrades. You're not just putting a body kit on your Civic just because you want to be cool. It actually increases your reputation. So as you purchase these parts and win these parts, you're winning custom hoods and buying different spoilers and putting neons on your car, buying new rims and things like that, your reputation meter is going up. So basically you eventually build a 1-star car and a 2-star car, and eventually you build a 5-star car by the end of the game. And what this does is it actually is a multiplier on your style points. Style points are basically points that you get for driving in a stylish fashion. You get points for power sliding, for hang time when you go over jumps, if you're drafting properly, if you can get a head start, take a shortcut. All these little things, these little bits of finesse, if you can pull them off successfully, you'll earn a lot of style points. And then, of course, as your car gets better and better looking, it multiplies the style points so you earn them faster. Basically, style points will unlock a lot of rewards that aren't necessarily performance upgrades for your existing car, but there'll be things like vinyl stickers that you can put on the side. You'll eventually open up the option to put all the different aftermarket brands on the side of the car. So if you want like an Alpine or Kenwood sticker on the side of your car, Brembo or NOS or any of that stuff, the game is full of a whole lot of different aftermarket brands to choose from, so you can kind of sticker it up like you would a real Civic or Neon or any of these other kind of import racers. The game has a very striking visual style to it. The game really just kind of jumps off the screen when you first look at it. It makes heavy use of this motion blur effect that really kind of gives the game an almost surreal look to it. You're driving at night, so there's a lot of reflections. The road is always wet, so you see a lot of reflections off the road and reflections off the car. And just basically, when you really get moving, just everything gets really blurry and just kind of a really effective way at conveying a really strong sense of speed. The game's frame rate doesn't really hold up quite so well on any of the platforms that it's been released on other than the PC. But the Xbox version is definitely the strongest at maintaining its frame rate while really kind of driving home that motion blur effect as effectively as possible. The console versions of the game have a split screen mode so you can play 2-player races, and that works reasonably well. The PC and PlayStation 2 versions of the game have online play, and this will let you go on head-to-head races as well as 4-player races over the internet. The game has ranked and unranked modes, so if you want to build up your reputation and your ranking online, you can take on people in ranked battles, and it'll track disconnects and things like that, so you kind of know if people are shady drivers and things like that. The sound of the game is pretty much what you would expect from a driving game. The squeal of tires around corners and engine noises, exhaust notes, all that is as it should be. The game does contain a soundtrack, much like all the other EA games. It has the EA Tracks feature, so you get the name of the song popping up on the screen and stuff. And it contains artists like the Crystal Method, Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, Nate Dogg, T.I., and a handful of others. The Xbox version doesn't have custom soundtrack support, which is kind of a disappointment. But the songs that are in the game pretty much fit the subject matter pretty well, so they really do kind of create kind of a similar atmosphere, and it in the end works pretty well. All told, Need for Speed Underground is a good game. It definitely could have used some more track variety, because it does have some pretty strong modes to it. The ability to unlock all this different aftermarket stuff for your car and kind of make it look all crazy looking with stickers and stuff. There's a ton of stuff to unlock and a ton of reason why you would want to continue playing the game, except that you're kind of racing on the same tracks over and over again, and that really kind of takes away from the impact of the career mode. That said, though, the game is really a blast to just pick up and play. The gameplay is pretty strong, and it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of import racers.